Imagine a guy who spends, I don't know, 3 weeks taking a woman on expensive dates.
Yeah.
And he's listening to her complain about her ex-boyfriends
Oof.
for hours on the phone, constantly validating her,
Right.
all while secretly hoping that if he just plays his cards right, she's going to fall in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
Society looks at that guy and calls him a nice guy.
Yeah.
But the psychological framework we're diving into today calls him something else entirely. A lazy, manipulative coward.
It is harsh reframe.
Yeah.
But it perfectly sets the stakes for what we're analyzing today. We're looking at a deeply disruptive behavioral landscape. Because the standard social script tells us to be polite,
Right.
to avoid friction, and to indirectly suggest what we want. But the material we're unpacking, it completely shatters that script.
It really does. And just to lay our cards on the table for everyone listening, today we're taking an impartial, purely analytical deep dive into the writings of author Alan Roger Currie. So we've got a stack of his work in front of us, including the books Mode 1 and No Free Attention.
Yeah, heavy reading.
Yeah, exactly. And our mission today is to trace a very specific, often hidden psychological transition that men go through.
Right.
We're looking at the journey of a man who stops trying to be Mr. Perfect Gentleman and instead embraces total, unapologetic directness.
Which is a fascinating transition to map out. And, we aren't here to endorse this framework or condemn it for that matter. Our goal is to decode the psychological mechanics of it.
Right.
Because the transition from hesitation to directness isn't just about dating or romantic pursuit. At its core, this is a fundamental shift in how a person values their own time, how they manage their ego, and really how they confront their deepest fears of rejection.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because to understand where we're going, this state of absolute directness, we first have to thoroughly understand the starting point.
Right.
Currie categorizes male behavior into 4 distinct modes. And the baseline, where the vast majority of men are apparently operating, is what he calls Mode 2.
Right. Mode 2 behavior. These are the men characterized as the pleasant postponers.
The pleasant postponers.
Yeah, and if we look at the underlying psychology here, it's driven almost entirely by fear.
Okay.
But it's not a fear of physical danger. It's the paralyzing fear of harsh subjective criticism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The Mode 2 man is utterly terrified of a woman disapproving of his true intentions or judging him for his sexual desires. So his primary objective becomes universal likability.
He just wants everyone to like him.
Exactly. He wants every single person he interacts with to perceive him as a harmless, well-mannered gentleman.
But the irony is that this desperate desire to be liked actually traps him. Like, it forces him to build what the framework calls the small talk barrier.
Yes.
Because if you're terrified of being judged for your actual desires, you have to talk about literally anything else.
That is the trap. Because the Mode 2 man lacks the courage to simply approach someone and say, I find you attractive and I'm romantically interested in you.
Right.
He resorts to hours, sometimes days or weeks of trivial conversation.
Just filler.
Pure filler. He becomes an entertainer, he flatters her, he makes her laugh, he wants to make her feel incredibly comfortable.
Yeah.
And his internal logic is that if he behaves in a manner that's highly pleasing to her ego, she'll eventually recognize his value.
And reward him.
Exactly. Reward him by reciprocating his hidden romantic interests. He's constantly postponing the truth.
Which leads to a phenomenon I think a lot of people have witnessed or maybe even experienced.
Oh, yeah.
The framework calls it fun clubbing.
Right.
Where the man inadvertently morphs into a platonic boyfriend. Like he acts as a gossip buddy or this endless, empathetic listening ear.
Yes.
You see these guys literally holding a woman's purse at the bar while she texts other men.
Oh, it's brutal.
Or spending hours on the phone listening to her vent her frustrations about the guys she's actually being intimate with.
Right.
And he thinks this display of fierce loyalty is going to earn him romance down the line.
And that is a tragic miscalculation in this behavioral model. He's giving away his time, his emotional bandwidth, his energy completely for free.
Wow.
He fundamentally misunderstands the mechanics of what creates romantic or sexual tension.
Okay.
Because tension requires friction. Tension requires a spark of direct intent. By smoothing everything over and acting like a therapist, he completely neutralizes himself.
It sounds exactly like a terrible salesperson who spends, 3 weeks complimenting a client's office decor.
Yes.
Bringing them coffees, asking about their kids, but is too terrified to ever actually ask for the sale.
Let's build on that analogy because it highlights a psychological flaw perfectly.
Right.
Imagine that salesperson spends a month bringing coffee, and then one day a rival salesperson walks in.
Oh, boy.
Completely ignores the office decor, looks the client in the eye, pitches the product, and gets the contract.
And the first guy is furious.
The first guy is going to be furious, right, but whose fault is it? He built rapport indefinitely because he was terrified of hearing the word no.
Wow, yeah. And then he blames the client for not reading his mind.
Precisely. And there's a brilliant linguistic observation in Currie's work regarding the word nice, which is exactly what these Mode 2 men are striving to be.
Okay.
If you look at the Latin root of the word nice, it's necius. It actually translates to ignorant and foolish.
No way.
Yeah, and the Middle English root of the word means strange and lazy.
Wait, lazy? How does laziness factor into this? Because these guys are putting in hours of work.
They're putting in hours of the wrong kind of work.
Ah.
The framework argues that being a Mode 2 nice guy is actually a deeply lazy way of avoiding authentic communication.
I see.
It requires absolutely no courage to talk about the weather or to flatter someone's outfit or agree with everything they say.
Right.
But it requires immense emotional courage to look someone in the eye and state a direct desire that might result in immediate rejection.
Yeah.
So the Mode 2 approach, despite the time investment, is emotionally lazy. It's highly cautious, deeply indirect, and ultimately it's entirely manipulative.
Hold on, I kind of want to push back on that a bit. Because I've always thought whining and dining someone, or giving compliments, or even just being a good listener, was just standard chivalry.
Right.
This framework actually classifies paying for dinner and being complimentary as manipulation.
It absolutely does. And this is the pivot point of the whole theory. What's fascinating here is how the framework redefines manipulation.
Okay.
We usually think of manipulation as some dark Machiavellian deception, like a movie villain tricking someone out of their life savings.
Sure.
But in this context, manipulation is defined much more broadly. Anytime you offer tangible or intangible incentives, rewards, or deceptive behavior to motivate a beneficial response, rather than just straightforwardly asking for what you want.
You're being manipulative.
You're being manipulative.
Ah, so it's the hidden agenda that makes it manipulative. It's not the dinner itself. It's the expectation attached to the dinner that was never voiced.
That's the core issue. The Mode 2 man is operating on a covert contract.
A covert contract.
Yeah, he silently thinks to himself, I bought you 3 expensive dinners, I listened to you complain about your boss for 4 hours, therefore you owe me a romantic or sexual chance.
Oh, man.
But he never actually stated those terms up front. The woman just thought she was having dinner with a polite guy who liked hearing about her boss.
So when she inevitably places him in the friend zone, because from her perspective, she genuinely just sees him as a polite platonic friend,
right,
that covert contract is broken. And that's where the psychological breaking point happens.
Yes. The nice guy facade shatters. The framework calls this the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde syndrome.
Oh, wow.
The pleasant, accommodating, deferential guy suddenly realizes his time and his money were wasted. He feels cheated, his ego is deeply bruised, and because he lacks the tools for healthy directness,
he snaps.
He swings violently into what is categorized as Mode 4 behavior.
And Mode 4 is nicknamed the misogynistic revenge seeker. That is a dark turn.
It's an incredibly toxic state of egotistical frustration. In Mode 4, the man is finally being direct, but he's only doing it out of anger and a desire for retaliation.
Jeez.
He no longer fears criticism. In fact, he wants to lash out and bruise the woman's ego because he feels she bruised his.
Yeah.
So he might send hostile text messages, call her names, or accuse her of leading him on. He completely abandons the gentleman act because it failed to get him what he wanted.
Right.
But he hasn't replaced it with genuine confidence. He replaced it with bitter resentment.
So he's stuck in this exhausting pendulum swing.
Yes.
He tries to be the ultimate nice guy, completely hides his intentions to avoid rejection, gets friend-zoned, gets furious because his covert contract was violated, lashes out in Mode 4, feels bad about acting like a jerk, and then goes right back to being a Mode 2 nice guy with the next woman.
That is a perfect summary of the cycle. It's an endless loop of fear and frustration. He is constantly reacting to external validation rather than driving his own reality. And that begs the question, how does a man actually break out of that loop?
Right.
According to the psychology we're unpacking, the only escape route is a fundamental, radical shift in how he allocates his most precious resource. Not his money, his time.
Which brings us to the bridge. The catalyst for transitioning out of this hesitant cycle is adopting a philosophy called no free attention.
Exactly. To cross from the hesitating mode 2 over to true self-assurance, a man must enforce a ruthless boundary on his own attention.
Okay.
There's a pivotal anecdote in the material that illustrates this perfectly. Back in March of 1988, Currie had a coworker in a Chicago office named Anthony.
Right.
And Anthony was notorious in the workplace for completely refusing to give female coworkers any trivial small talk, fluff talk, or social pleasantries.
I can just imagine the awkwardness of the water cooler. Like, he just totally shut it down.
Completely shut it down. If
Yeah.
you walked up to his desk to chat about the weekend, you got nothing. He operated on a brutally simple rule. If they weren't doing official company business and they weren't sleeping together, he gave them absolutely zero free non-sexual attention.
Just zero.
Zero. And he wasn't mean or hostile about it. He was just entirely aloof and unresponsive to chit-chat. He refused to play the game.
And the irony here, which seems to be the light bulb moment for this whole philosophy, was how the women in the office reacted.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't ignore him. His aloofness actually made them intensely intrigued. It made them more aggressive in seeking out his attention.
Because he wasn't playing the personal comedic entertainer role.
Right.
He wasn't seeking their validation, which inherently made his validation seem more valuable.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Applying no free attention as a broader philosophy means a man must categorically stop being the free therapist.
Okay.
He must actively refuse to listen to a woman talk about her ex-boyfriends or other men she finds attractive.
Just cut it off.
Cut it off. The rule is absolute. Do not offer free meals, monetary favors, or endless empathetic listening without clear, reciprocal, romantic, or sexual interest. You have to value your own time more than you value the hope of a stranger's approval.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you're a guy who has relied on small talk your whole life,
Right.
and you suddenly strip away the flattery, the whining and dining, the gossip sessions, what is actually left? Like, if you aren't doing the standard social dance to build comfort, how does a guy even initiate an interaction?
That takes us to the final destination of this psychological transition, mode 1 behavior.
Mode 1.
The men who operate here are called the self-assured straight shooters. When you strip away the games, the covert contracts, and the fear of criticism, what is left is absolute, unapologetic honesty.
No beating around the bush. You just state your case.
Within the first few minutes of an interaction, the Mode 1 man clearly, specifically, and unambiguously states his true desires, interests, and intentions. He completely bypasses the small talk barrier. But the mechanics of how he survives this emotionally are crucial.
It gets scary.
It's terrifying for most people. It requires a foundational mindset called egotistical indifference.
Egotistical indifference.
Right.
Meaning detaching your ego from the outcome of the interaction.
That is the superpower of this framework. In Mode 1, a man's self-esteem is entirely self-generated. It's not tied to how the woman responds to his directness.
Okay.
If he expresses his interests and she enthusiastically reciprocates, fantastic.
Great.
But if she rejects him or even harshly criticizes him for being so blunt, he is totally unfazed. He doesn't get defensive, he doesn't apologize for his desires, and he certainly doesn't slide into that bitter Mode 4 anger. He simply accepts the no as valuable data and moves on.
Because in this framework, rejection isn't a failure. It's actually viewed as a massive win. Like, the material treats rejection as a win-win scenario.
Right. Rejection is the ultimate time saver.
Yeah.
By being radically direct up front, the Mode 1 man forces the other person to reveal their true intentions immediately. He rapidly weeds out individuals categorized as manipulative time wasters.
Yes, let's talk about the time wasters because this gets very specific.
It does.
The framework outlines personas like the wholesome pretenders and the erotic hypocrites. How do they operate against a Mode 2 guy, and how does Mode 1 defeat them?
So a wholesome pretender is someone who feigns prudishness or highly conservative values to make a man jump through hoops, but historically has engaged in very casual encounters.
Okay.
An erotic hypocrite might casually sleep with men she deems high status or highly attractive, but forces the nice guy to endure months of platonic friendship and financial investment.
Wow.
A Mode 2 man gets utterly destroyed by these personas because he plays by their delayed rules.
He waits.
He waits. A Mode 1 man shatters the facade instantly because he demands directness. He forces the issue. If she balks, he walks. He refuses to enter the friend zone.
But I want to clarify something for the listener, because it's not just walking up to strangers on the street and shouting explicit language at them, right?
Yeah.
Like, the framework highlights that there's a very nuanced application to this directness.
Yes, it is highly calibrated. You aren't just an unhinged, blunt instrument. The framework scales Mode 1 communication almost like movie ratings.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the environment, the context, and the specific desire of the man.
The PG-13, R-rated, and X-rated scale.
Yes. So PG-13 Mode 1 is utilized in public settings, or perhaps when surrounded by mutual friends.
Right.
It's highly confident and direct, but the language is entirely clean. It's stating a clear, unambiguous desire to spend one-on-one time together romantically without sexualizing the immediate conversation,
Oh, I see.
thereby protecting her public social standing while still drawing a firm line in the sand.
And then it scales up, depending on the intent.
Right. R-rated Mode 1 involves more suggestive language, sexual innuendo, and provocative teasing.
Yeah.
This might be used to gauge the true interest of a woman who is acting overly conservative or professional.
Got it.
And finally, X-rated Mode 1 uses blunt, explicit language. That is strictly reserved for scenarios where a man is seeking a purely casual, non-monogamous fling and wants to cut through absolutely all pretenses instantly.
Wow.
It's high risk, but it leaves zero room for misinterpretation.
So what does this all mean? Like, going back to our earlier analogy, it's basically like walking into a job interview, and instead of doing the awkward dance for 3 weeks where everyone pretends money doesn't matter, you sit down and immediately state your exact salary requirements.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that analogy is flawless. If you ask for $100,000 in the first 5 minutes of the interview, and their budget is only $50,000, the interview abruptly ends.
Which feels harsh in the moment.
It feels incredibly harsh. But you just saved yourself 3 weeks of grueling, stressful interviews, endless follow-up emails, and emotional investment for a job you were never going to accept anyway. Mode 1 behavior forces women into a binary choice. Because the man is completely transparent, the woman is forced to either enthusiastically reciprocate his interest or straightforwardly reject it.
There's no middle ground.
None. Mode 1 utterly annihilates the ambiguous zone. And it is in that ambiguous zone where manipulative head games from both men and women thrive.
Because if a man is hiding his intentions behind small talk, he has no right to be mad when a woman doesn't magically fulfill them.
Exactly.
But if he states them clearly and she says no, he just walks away. No money spent on dinners, no time wasted being a gossip buddy, and most importantly, no resentment built up.
Exactly. It eliminates the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde syndrome entirely.
Wow.
The anger and misogyny of Mode 4 only exist because the man felt cheated. In Mode 1, you cannot be cheated because you never offered any free attention or hidden contracts to begin with. You offered a straightforward proposition, and it was either accepted or declined.
This has been such a wild journey to trace out. So just to recap this transition for everyone listening, we started with the pleasant postponer in Mode 2, the guy who's so paralyzed by the fear of criticism that he seeks constant external validation.
Right.
He hides his true desires behind hours of small talk. He buys dinners with secret expectations, effectively turning himself into a gossip buddy.
Yep.
And because he's operating on that cowardly secret contract, he eventually feels used and snaps into the bitter, vengeful Mode 4.
A toxic cycle fueled entirely by insecurity and a complete lack of personal boundaries.
But the escape hatch from that cycle is enforcing no free attention, vigorously protecting your time and refusing to be the free therapist.
Yes.
And that acts as the bridge to becoming the self-assured straight shooter in Mode 1, a person who is outcome independent, radically honest, and totally unfazed by rejection because his ego validates itself.
This raises an important question for anyone listening, even if you're entirely outside the realm of dating and romance.
Okay, how so?
If you're listening to this and you've ever found yourself biting your tongue at work just to keep the peace, or agreeing to do favors for friends because you're terrified they won't like you if you say no,
Oh, man, yeah.
you're engaging in Mode 2 behavior. At its absolute core, this framework is a masterclass in valuing your own time.
Right.
It challenges the listener to realize that being overly accommodating or being the perpetual nice guy in any social dynamic is very often just a mask for deep-seated insecurity. It is a lazy way to avoid the vulnerability of asking for what you actually want.
It really is about having the backbone to be authentic, even if it makes the room a little uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you take a hard look at all the places in life where we just smile and nod,
Yeah.
because it's easier than stating our actual terms.
It does, and I want to leave the listener with a final thought today, something that bubbles right beneath the surface of all this psychological analysis.
Sure.
If being polite and relying on small talk is so often just a socially acceptable way to hide our true intentions and protect our fragile egos,
Right.
what if society's definition of good manners is actually just training us all to be professional liars? What if true respect for another human being isn't found in carefully crafted flattery, but is actually found in blunt, unfiltered honesty?
Wow. Are we just trained to be professional liars? That is going to stick with me. We really hope this deep dive gave you a new lens to view your own social scripts, whether in dating, at work, or with your friends. Take a hard look at your week and think about where you might be giving away your own free attention. Until next time, keep questioning the script.